Hey, can anyone see me? Wow, it's working. Who would have thought? This is actually pretty cool. Well, welcome to the Q&A and welcome to my shop. I haven't ever showed any of this before. I built this shop about 1.5 years ago after being kicked out of a place I was at 17 years in Berkeley. So this is all mine. No one can kick me out of it. So yeah, I've been pretty busy with a startup company, Maxwell Vehicles. We're putting Tesla drivetrains in vans, and that's eaten a huge amount of time, but that's doing really well. I recently got hit by a car on my bike. That was not fun, so I was down for a little while that happened. So David asks, so when are you going to take apart a Model S Plaid? Well, I want to fundraise, and I've set up a fundraiser, and if a third of my subscribers gives $20, we can buy a Plaid and tear it to pieces. That's what Sandy Monroe's doing. He's great at teardowns as far as the manufacturing and mechanical goes, but they don't know the electronics, and this is where the electronics are where Tesla's really above and beyond everyone else a lot. So yeah, I'd love to do a Plaid. If not, maybe an owner is willing to lend me one to do a non-destructive teardown. That would be cool too. So yeah, anyone have any questions? This is a Q&A after all. Ask me some questions. How's the audio? I tried setting up this lapel mic. I don't know if it's working right. I couldn't tell if it's just getting the laptop mic, or it says it's on, but I can't tell if it's receiving that. Pedro Demio, I think I said that right. Maybe I didn't. What can you say about current future supercharging? Where are the current limitations, and what I predict for the new future? Well, Tesla's obviously got faster superchargers in development, and obviously they're going to wrap it up. I think that's, what are you asking in particular about supercharging? Like, is it going to get faster? Are you asking in particular with the Salvage stuff? Okay, Jake asks, how about powering a house from solar using car as a battery? Well, I've done that. I don't know if you can see, let's see if I can point to it. Back there, if you look in the very corner right over the Model Y, you'll see a Tesla Model S battery sitting up bolted to the corner of the building. And that's my backup. I don't have it online unless my power goes out. And you've probably all heard about the California wildfires, so PG&E, the utility company here, they'll turn off the power if the wind gets too high because they don't want another wildfire. So if that occurs, then I can go off grid. I recently put in a new solar system. Let me see if I can switch to the other cam so I can show you some of this stuff, if you care. Do you care? Yeah. Pedromio asked, thanks, about new cars and the current cars, what limits them? Well, it's basically the batteries. When you're charging a battery, you have to stuff electrons in there, and if the batteries, relatively discharged, the flow is easy and low resistance. But as the battery fills, it gets harder and harder to find where to put those electrons, basically. I know I'm oversimplifying it. So that ends up making a lot of heat in the battery, which isn't good. So they chill the battery, and then they taper the charging, and that's really the limit. So as they improve the chemistry, they'll probably be able to get faster supercharging rates. Yeah, Jake asked about my solar system. Let me see if I can get this other camera going. Let's switch that. Hopefully this isn't too crazy. Okay, can you still hear me on this camera? This camera has some weird, I don't know, smoothing artifacts that make me look like jelly. See, I wish it would tell me, like they need to add an audio thing here so you can see test. Yeah, it looks like it's still working. I don't know if it'll work when I walk away. Okay, yeah, my solar system. So the solar system's obviously up on the roof, so it's hard to show you, but that's the inverter. I put a 9 kilowatt system in, and over here is the Model S battery that acts as backup. So if the power goes out, there's a 15 kW inverter there that I can switch in. It's all manual, but with the solar system right now, it's producing 7 kilowatts. Yeah, everyone should go solar now. The costs are getting really low, so it's a really good time to go solar. Let's see. Is it possible to supercharge when buying a salvage Tesla? I've heard conflicting info. Well, according to Tesla, no, it's not. They shut off supercharging on salvage or unsupported vehicles. That's a lot of vehicles. I've turned supercharging back on about several thousand of those vehicles that were disabled. Now, something you should know, supercharging is controlled by the car. So the supercharger is kind of a dumb device. It receives its instructions from the car. So when you have a salvage vehicle and Tesla determines you're not eligible for supercharging anymore, they actually reach into the car over the cell network and remove the option from your car. It's as if they showed up and jacked your car up and took your wheels. They're taking a part of your car by altering that configuration, and they don't have any permission to do so. They might have, had an agreement with the previous owner to, do remote control and all that, but they do not have any agreements with the new owner. So what gives them the right to go into the car and alter it? So when I turn supercharging back on, all I'm doing is restoring the original configuration. So whatever it was before they tinkered with it, I put it back. So that means if you had paid supercharging, you get paid supercharging back, and you have to go into your Tesla account and put a credit card in there and all that. I think if it ever ends up in court, Tesla's in the wrong here. Now, obviously, they could change the system and start blocking people at the supercharger level and not touch people's cars. They have that right. I think it's wrong to do that because they're devaluing the car quite a bit. But they can do whatever they want. But they are not really entitled to reach into your car and remove an option that is a huge value of the car. GM can't show up and unbolt your fuel tank and take off with it. Okay. Hang asks, is it possible to supercharge when? Oh, okay, we already answered that one. Dan asks, can you do your solar system with a Model 3 or Y battery? Yeah, you could. Nothing's stopping you. The hard part is any kind of, stuff like I've got rigged up there in the corner is not to code. Like it's not UL listed to interconnect with the grid, so you can't legally, do that. If you end up burning your house or shop down, and they come out, they can deny your fire claim because obviously you caused it by doing all this weird stuff. So I can't really advise someone to use, aftermarket parts to do an off-grid system. There are people working on repackaging the batteries and certifying that and getting it all, certified by the labs. And then maybe in the future we'll see that happen. But yeah, it's technically possible if you have the battery. I happen to have that battery already. It was just sitting around, not doing anything. It's a slightly decayed old model, Model S 85 kilowatt hour pack. So it's down to like 78 or so kilowatt hours. Not really a good thing to put in a car, but it works great. I mean, that with my 9 kilowatts of solar, I can pretty much run off grid indefinitely. Okay. We pay 17.8% in South Colorado, so I'm doing 21 kilowatt hours here soon. Yeah, that 21 kilowatt hours, or I'm not clear what 21 kilowatt hours of battery. So PM asks, any thoughts on Plaid 450 volt pack or liquid cooled rotor? Yeah, I want to tear apart a Plaid. I really do. I do have a GoFundMe set up. At this rate, I don't know if we'll get 8,000 or so people. I mean, there's only 48 of you watching this now. Maybe some people will watch it later. I'll go ahead and post it. Let me find the link here. Just stand by if you could. Where is it? Okay, that's the GoFundMe link for the Plaid drive. If a third of my subscriber base donates $20, we can tear apart a Plaid, and we can do a full tear down on it. I don't really think that's gonna happen, but who knows? Stranger things have happened. If not, that will go into the kitty for future teardowns. I do have a Cybertruck on order also. That's a little bit more affordable, or maybe we'll when people start wrecking them, and there's going to be a lot of Plaid wrecks because that's a powerful car, we'll get a salvage one. And that's how I usually prefer to do it. Okay, let's see. Matthias asked, should Tesla go public with a supercharger network? Yeah, of course. I think they should. They built an amazing network. The only problem is in Europe they're converting to CCS Type 2, but here it's proprietary. So people would either need an adapter or Tesla would have to convert the network. I don't see it being easy. So I doubt we'll see too many takers on Tesla's network in the US. In Europe, I bet you it'll happen. So Brian asks, if I root an older gen salvaged MCU, can that MCU go into any Tesla, or is there some kind of serial number? Yeah, the MCU or the ICE in the Model 3 or Y contains the gateway, and inside the gateway lives the car's configuration, all the options, the VIN number, all the certificates that also on the ICE are all the certificates needed to connect to Tesla, so the app works and you get updates. That's inside there, so you can't move them from car to car unless you got really lucky And the donor car that it came out of had the exact same configuration. Of course, the VIN would now be different, and the color of the car, all that stuff. So yeah, you can't move them around unless you can get in and alter that config, and it's a little tricky. So Shifthead says power company charges 17.8 cents per kilowatt hour, so doing 21 kilowatt hour, so it wouldn't be 21 kWh, that would be 21 kW. That's a lot of panels. That is a huge amount of panels. Unless your bill is thousands of dollars a month, I don't think you need a 21 kilowatt system. My bill here was 400 to 500. I'm running servers and things like that, or continuous load. So even with the cars and stuff, 9 kilowatts is way more than adequate. My utility company delivers the power, but I'm with a community choice power thing, and they're actually cutting checks now for the overage. So because I'm negative each month, my power company is going to cut me a check, and that'll pay for the other utilities. So it's like I have solar powered everything, solar powered water. Pretty cool. Jake says they're doing CCS in Europe because of laws. Yeah, the European Union has said that networks must be interoperable, so they're enforcing that. I don't know much about it, but yeah, they are. It makes sense if all cars are that way. You don't need adapters. I like it. When Tesla built their proprietary inlet in the U.S., there was nothing around that worked really well, so they were ahead of the game. It's an awesome inlet, but it's not global, single phase, and it's proprietary, so none of the other cars are going to use it. So what are your thoughts on repairability with the Unibody platform or casting process? Well, a good friend of mine runs a body shop, and you can actually cut out an old casting and put a new one in, but it's crazy expensive. I suspect if you crack, if Tesla starts doing castings that are like the entire side of the vehicle and you crack one of those, it's totaled. Tesla, now the insurance companies will total a Tesla for relatively minor bolt-on damage just because the parts are so hard to get. Until Tesla fixes their service and parts availability, they're going to keep totaling cars really easily. So it's kind of ridiculous. To use Model 3 pack on Powerwall for backup, you need an aftermarket controller to be able to control the BMS or something that can do that along with inverter. Yeah, you need an inverter, first off, that can operate with that voltage. The controlling is pretty easy. If there was enough interest in a controller, I could sell one. I've got one in development that runs the motor and will run the pack with the motor, but not the pack as standalone. The hard part is you have to do some amount of integration with that to make sure you control everything properly. It's not just like a dumb battery. So you have to know when to charge, when to discharge, and you have to interface that to all your external stuff, and it generally requires some amount of development. So I'd have to make a kind of a controller with maybe an Arduino programmable chip in it that would let users do the integration themselves, something like that. Matthias asks, is 800 volts the future? So the reason you see these things neatly divided into around 400 and around 800 are because the power semiconductor industry established the power semiconductors for grid voltages of 240 volts to 300 and then 480 to 600. So the semiconductors are all 600 volt class or 1200 volt class, and that's why you see batteries in the 400 volt, 800 volt class, because they work with the 600 volt, 1200 volt semiconductors. But yeah, there's no reason not to go with higher voltage if you need higher power, but it complicates things. It's obviously more dangerous. I think for the foreseeable future, Tesla's obviously not gone 800 volts. The Plaid is the quickest production car ever made, and they're doing okay with 450. Actually, it's probably like 420 nominal or something. I don't know. I haven't found out yet. Let's see, what about third-party repair shops? How do they do it? Yeah, Tesla will authorize third-party body shops to gain access to do minor things like redeploy software. Well, thanks, Robert. That's the first time. I didn't even know you could do a contribution in here. Pretty cool. Yeah, that'll go into the Plaid fund or whatever comes next. Salvage Plaid fund if we can't afford a new one, whatever. Maybe Robert can tell us how he did that. I didn't even know there was a way to contribute through here. That's pretty cool. John asked, do you think there's enough headroom in the Model 3Y MOSFETs for a power increase via software update? So, in the Model 3Y, the rear drive unit uses silicon carbide FETs. When they first started off, they were bending these to match them, I think. And now they're not bending anymore. I'm pretty sure the quality is really good. So they found they were able to, of the 24 SiC FETs in there, they were able to pull 6 of them out, one in each side of the 3 T bridges, so 6 total. They removed for the long range all-wheel drive that's not performance. So that's to save money, and there's not a lot of headroom. They were able to eke out a little more from a Model 3 inverter because the Model Y, same hardware, Model Y has slightly more power. So I think they've eked out all they can eke out safely. Could they eke out more? Yeah, but it might result in warranty claims and reliability problems. So when you engineer things for reliability, and Tesla really wants the drivetrains to be reliable, there's a pretty good safety factor there. So like if it was cool out and you weren't hit by a cosmic ray, yeah, you could probably overpower it, but there's not a lot of headroom. Jake asked, semi-chargers, high voltage, isn't it? I obviously haven't seen a semi, but from what I've seen, the development semis just have they had a stack of packs in them, and they were all separate. So they made a box that lets them pull up to a supercharger and plug, like a Hydra. They plug in 6 superchargers into this box, and that plugs into the truck. And I think it's just taking it in as independent contacts, so individual 400 volt. The superchargers cannot do really much over 450 volts, so NutraPuppy gave $5. Well, it says $5 and then it says $50. Sneaky. Well, thanks for the $5, even if it's not 50. Let's see. Oh yeah, Peter is in the know here. He asks, how come the standard range switched from 980 to 990? So yeah, let me grab an inverter. I can do a show and tell here. So here's the Model 3, Model Y inverter. They use this in also the Raven, so I'm pretty sure they might be using this in the Plaid, and there's 2 of them. I don't know, but let's see. Can we see here? Let's see. Yeah, we can see. Okay, so where you see these pads, there's a cold plate under this. So the actual FETs are bonded to the cold plate under here. You can't really see them. And there's 4 here, 4 here, 4 here. Anyway, 6 groups of 4 are the switches that take the battery voltage. They can either switch the battery positive or the battery negative to each of the 3 phase terminals that go to the motor. So in the 880 or the 980, all 4 are in each switch. In the 990, they remove one of these in each. In fact, yeah, this is a 960, so same as a 990. This one's missing, that one's missing, that one's missing, and that one missing. So yeah, that's Tesla saving money, and that's why you can't make an all-wheel drive a P car just by software, unless you can't really install those FETs. Okay, what other questions? Pyrotechnic 44, did you check the switching frequency of the active rectifier? I'm not sure what active rectifier you're talking about. Are you talking about in the charger? What about the DC-DC frequency? No, I have not actually checked the frequency. I haven't done a complete teardown where I, analyze a running system. Yeah, Wavy asks, been looking at the Ghost upgrade for a while. Do I need to worry about Tesla finding it remotely and disable features in my car? Yeah, they've been doing that. I would avoid that unless you have a salvage or unsupported car. I don't know exactly what they were doing. Obviously, if you had a 980 inverter in your all-wheel drive that wasn't P, then it is just, firmware in the drive inverter to make it a P. So yeah, you could man in the middle of that. But now they've added cryptographic signatures or something between the gateway and the drive unit to stop that. Let's see. Oh, well, Mike's Electric stuff. Welcome to the channel. I love your stuff. I've been watching you for years. He says, are 800 volts to work on old 400 volt chargers? The car needs a booster to increase the voltage. And charge rate is limited by the capability of the booster. Taycan and Ioniq have this. Lucid haven't said yet. Yeah, I guess if I don't know. I saw some architecture. I don't know if it was the Taycan, where basically the pack is split into two 400 volt sections. So if you want to do a 400 volt charge, they just put the packs in parallel and don't need a converter. I don't have direct knowledge. I've done a Porsche teardown, but that would be one way to do it. But like Electrify America, all their fast chargers are 800 volt capable. Yeah, Shiftheads notes that he thought it was me at first that made the Ghost. There's this company, Nginx, and I don't know if it's a coincidence that it looks just like my channel name or, not, but no, I have nothing to do with those guys. They're in Canada. They speak French. I don't know them. I don't agree with some of the things they're doing. Peter asks, during a recent investor call, vehicle to grid was brought up again. Their comment sounded like it was possible. Has anything changed in the last year? So this rages on. There's no hardware in the car that allows the car to generate AC power directly. In other words, plugging in just an adapter to get AC power out of the car. You can still do vehicle to grid by taking DC out of the car, much like I did, with my pack in the corner, and then run an external inverter. But an inverter to run a whole house is expensive, or go to the grid. It's going to be, a good bit of hardware, and then it has to have approval. Tesla just doesn't believe that's the good way to do things. So I don't think Tesla's going to do vehicle to grid. So some of the other manufacturers might, but I see, distributed microgrids where you have permanently installed packs doing a better job. Oh, thanks, John Raymond, for 19 pounds sterling. Hugo asks, what are your thoughts on the control strategy between both motors on the rear for Plaid, knowing that they seems to use two Model 3 drive unit inverters, master slave over can control? Yeah, I don't know. I would hazard to guess that you know, they're in the master inverter, they're normally doing the torque split. So maybe they either made one of the rears a master and then the other two slaves, or maybe the front is the master and then the rears of the slave. And that would be, that seems more elegant, like they could do that. Since the inverters are all Team S320 dual core, you know, they're pretty beefy. They can do all that in real time in the inverter. They might have an external control unit too that's doing it's handling just the traction control, torque split. So all drive units would then be slaves and 3 masters. I want to take it apart, so it's just speculation until we see. Jake asks, can you get DC out of the car through the charge port? Yes, yeah, you can. You can emulate a supercharger. Tesla has some, you know, secret CAN signals that will enable it to export. So yeah, on a Tesla you can. On most protocols, Chademo, CCS, they do support export. So any car with a DC fast charge capability could, in theory, export DC. Obviously, not going to be, you know, as useful if it can't do AC. A lot of the new cars, like the Ford Lightning, they just built the charger so it can work bi-directional, so it can actually produce AC right in the car. So that can be used, you know, in the car, or you can actually, you know, send it back out the charge port connector if you had the right hardware to make sure it was, you know, safely interfaced to the grid. Let's see. MC asks, Tesla has access to your car at all times, can do anything they want unless you have root access, can somehow cut the connection out. Yeah, they do. That's true. They have root level access to all cars. You can pull the, you know, the cell connection, just, you know, basically, you know, put a dummy plug in there with a 50 ohm terminator or something. Let's see. Well, I'm glad there's only 70 people in here, 75 people in here. I can't keep up with the questions. Some part thanks to the carbon sleeve. I missed what that was. Let me scroll back. Oh, Brian asked, any thoughts on how they improved the power curve so there's less drop off at higher PMs? Well, the RPMs are limited mechanically by, you know, the assembly flying apart. So they did the carbon overwrap so they could achieve a higher RPM. The rest is a function of, you know, the motor windings, how they're wound, and the back EMF. Once you go over the back, you know, the point of back EMF, you have to do field weakening on a motor to get higher RPM. It's not as efficient. The other way is to boost the pack voltage. So I think that's why we're seeing, you know, the 420. I'm just going to call it 420 because that's what Elon would call it. The 420 nominal pack voltage in Plaid. They increase the voltage, that way their same inverter can handle basically more kilowatts, and they might have even kept like the same stator or something, who knows. Okay, whoa, more questions. Crafty says, demand shifting is the only way vehicle grid will really work. Using as energy storage is such a complex solution to a problem with much easier options. Exactly. Yeah, installed microgrids are easier to deal with. Having a vehicle that you suddenly have to get out and drive, like if you're selling power to if you're exporting power to the grid in your car, and all of a sudden you need to take a trip, you know, what do you do? Yeah, it's just not convenient. The low-hanging fruit is when all these EVs, you know, start getting, you know, degradation of like 25% or more. Those packs could then be recycled into, you know, stationary storage where, you know, volume and weight don't matter. So I think we'll see a lot of that as EVs grow. Okay. Peter asks, F-150 80 amp charger has a CCS plug, not J1772. Well, CCS is part of the SAE J1772 standard. CCS basically adds the DC pins to the bottom of J1772. So J1772 does support up to 80 amps on the port, so there's no problem with that. And yes, there is an inverter. There, you know, would be a converter that takes the AC, turns into pack voltage, and theirs in this case is bidirectional, so it can reverse and produce AC power. Yeah, Mike's Electric Stuff says, I don't think CCS DC export is supported at the moment due to standards issues. Yeah, I haven't seen it implemented, but it's possible. The standard, there's nothing in the standard preventing it. But yeah, regulatory, you know, there's just no business case for it, really. Wavy said, living in Texas, it would have been nice to, in the car to power my house if the grid goes down. Yeah. The Texas grid was kind of a disaster. Yeah, a lot of people wish they could power their house from the car. I mean, a little generator is, frankly, for the amount of time you're going to use it, is cheaper hardware and more flexible for a power outage. I have a generator too, but Shiftheads asks, how's the Ram ProMaster conversion stuff going? What kind of motor battery setup are you using? So yeah, we are putting Model 3 powertrains in the ProMaster vans. Let me see if I can show you some of this. Let's see, how do I do this? Let me figure it out. See, where do we get this? Okay. Yeah, here's the startup that I am part of. It's called Maxwell Vehicles. We are putting the Model 3, we call it the E-Pro when we convert it. We're putting the Model 3 powertrains in this van. Yeah, it's an ugly van, but it's really awesome once the conversion is made. We've got you know, about 25 or so done. We've got orders for a lot more. This is, since no one's doing, you know, like, how many white vans do you see on the road? They're everywhere. And this is the lowest hanging fruit for electrification in the commercial space. There are more of these than anything else. So we need a really high quality, good conversion or ground up vehicle. Like, eventually Tesla will start doing them, but let me get back to the questions. So, yeah, that's here, I'll post the URL in case you guys want to check it out. Damn. Who knew I would have a channel big enough to get spam? I guess I'm gonna have to do a moderator. See if I can look past the spam here. Oh, there's a pop-out chat. How cool. When you do that, that would make it a little easier. How are these guys able to keep doing all these spams? I don't know, like, what is the point of them doing this? Stand by. This is live. Shit sucks. Let me go back up after all the spam. So I apologize for the spam. I'm trying to delete them, but Peter asks, sorry, Domine has the 2 extra pins on the 8 amp charging station. No, that's AC again. So they're using that all through the existing 2 AC pins on the J1772. Same as any EV. They don't use the 2 extra pins. Those are for DC only. Super Numex asks, which type of E-fuses are used to eliminate hard fuses? Analog hot swaps, TIE fuses. I did a teardown of VC front. You can see how they implemented it. For the 12 volt, it's basically a FET-based E-fuse. There's a current shunt, monitors that. They have a hardware trip. So even without software involvement, if the 12 volt is overloaded, the FET will open before anything bad can happen. There's also a software trip. So they can profile a load and disconnect it even sooner. Have you already worked with the CCS protocol? Yeah, we have CCS on our vans. We're doing 200 kW. CCS is a mess. I hate it. I think it's stupid. I don't know why. You know, it was designed by committee. Almost anything designed by committee ends up being like this. Damn. I don't understand. What's the point of spamming a channel like this? I thought I had enabled, thought there was a way to make it slow down things. Yeah, I thought that you could put a limit on how many. I don't know how you kick out. Cole asks, why is CCS so bad? Well, it's really complicated. Yeah, not only the plug itself is one thing, but just the protocol. They're using power line communications, which I don't really see the need for. It's not carried over the DC, it's carried over the pilot signal. So at least that's that. It's not as bad, but it's very complicated, the protocol ever. And then they use IPv6 over the power line, and then they use XML, and in some cases HTTPS, all these different security layers. It's kind of crazy. Yeah, I've hidden all the spammers, but they continue to, I don't know how you kick them out. User in timeout. Let's see if that works. Yeah, maybe that works. Yeah, Jeremy loves Linux. He summed it up. And here they come again. Matthias says some cars need to hold the plug for a while so it can start charging. Cumbersome. So yeah, in lieu of us getting a Plaid, which is I'd love to do, I'll give you a preview of what I'm working on here. Let me switch to the little mobile cam if I can. Here. Oh, the Tesla inverter's in the way. So this is the newest score for teardown. Just got this actually yesterday. So I've already got it apart. This is the gateway. This is power conversion. It's also 48 volt pack. Obviously I'm going to do the teardown once I learn about the system. But basically there's a 48 volt pack that goes in here. There's a DC to DC converter that takes it to about 360 volts, and then a three-phase inverter, which is just being used to produce split phase, and that's what's in a Powerwall. It's all liquid cooled. They have all these pumps. There's a glycol radiator here. Very complicated, but it's got a four-way valve, so it can use waste heat from the converter to heat the pack. Pretty cool. A lot of cool engineering in here. There's my bike that I got hit by a Prius. He was going about 35 and he didn't see me. He's an older guy. I went flying off the bike and I was laid up for about a week. Couldn't really get out of bed. This is another project which I can't talk about. Okay, let's see if I can get the other camera back on. I don't like that camera. It doesn't work really well. Okay, I'm back to the chat. Cole asks, do we know if V3 superchargers are capable of more than 250 kW on certain stalls if we split power? No, they cannot split power. The stalls are isolated. Yeah, I've been reporting them all and like timing them out, and they just keep coming in with new names. I don't see how they do it. Thoughts on taking the Tesla certification through community college? They also get you employment as technician. I would never want to work for Tesla. I don't know if you're asking if I would do that. Definitely not. There are obviously a lot of good, awesome people at Tesla that are doing fantastic work, but I don't think they treat people particularly good. There are plenty of other companies that I'd rather work for. Let's see. Okay, let's see if there's any other question. I'm gonna deal with these. Can a Tesla Chademo adapter charge a Salvage Model 3? No. When Tesla cuts off supercharging, they also kindly kill all DC fast charging, as far as I know. So no, you can't do anything. Is there a limit to the amount of power the current Tesla connector can output? So obviously they hit that limit with the V3 superchargers and had to liquid cool the connector. So luckily the battery is the big limiter, so they're able to remove enough heat from that connector with the liquid cooled system to at least keep up with what the battery can do. Yeah, that would be a limit though for the future. But one way to improve the speed is to go to higher voltage. The amps stay the same, you get more kW. Obviously Plaid will be able to charge faster. User 16384, powers of 2. Can a US Tesla be converted to CCS charge in Europe? It can, but it's a lot of parts. Lots and lots of parts. And you have to have internal access. Not worth it. Sell the car, buy another one in Europe, or vice versa. Thoughts in 4680s in Plaid? I don't think they're doing 4680s in Plaid, to my knowledge, but you know, I imagine they will when they get the process right. Jeremy Lowe's Linux. Have you tried putting a 5% pilot on a recent Tesla and see if it starts trying to speak unplug? Yeah, since cars sometime in 2020, all Teslas in the US are being equipped with a PLC modem. So now whether or not that they'll allow, you know, I assume that means they've got an adapter planned. You know, obviously all European cars have had it from the start because they're using, you know, the standard Type 2 inlet. I have not tried to see if it'll work, but yeah, if it does, feel free to try it. Maybe if I get some time, I'll try it. This car behind me does have that modem, so it's a brand new Model Y I'm working on for customer. Let's see. And yes, any so-called shops you can refer viewers to need help enabling supercharging? No, I really don't know anyone. I'm trying to tone it down with that because I think Tesla will, you know, they will eventually, because of people like me turning it back on, they will start doing, like they'll either change the protocol, put a blacklist in the supercharger. They can do any number of things where it will not be possible for me to turn it back on. So, you know, letting the people that I've already turned back on enjoy their supercharging as long as possible. Right now it's kind of stupid to buy salvage anyway. The prices are really high. You end up losing money if you try to fix a car, and you're gone are the days of, you know, when like Rich started and I started, where you could get salvage cars so cheap. Crafty asks, had a question from a friend about adapting the Model Y heat pump system to do HVAC on a van or RV. Are you guys doing that with your van? We are using the existing Model 3 non-heat pump system right now, but we are working on adapting the heat pump. The cool thing about the Model 3 system, even without the heat pump, is it's got a lot of excess capacity because it's designed to chill the battery during supercharging. So we have a refrigerated version. Let me see if I can show that. Let's see, go back to here. Yeah, this is our page for the refrigerated version. We basically put an auxiliary evaporator in the back, and the existing Model 3 compressor and front condenser can refrigerate the whole back of the van. And with the package we put in is really well insulated, so it uses very little power. It's really cool. Yeah, you can check it out at maxwellvehicles.com/refrigeration. Explains, how we do it. We have food banks using these. They can park the vans overnight and not have to unload them like they do with their existing engine-driven ones. So we have a link to the portal. Here are all the specs. So yeah, we're eventually going to adapt the heat pump. And then that'll be in the van as well. Okay, let's get some more questions. Where'd the questions go? Man, these guys don't stop. Crafty, yeah, I'm really frustrated by the lack of high efficiency AC heating in the RV market. Yeah, I did a project where we put a Model S drivetrain in this trolley, this old 1960s trolley car, and we just put a commercial mini split in there that's inverter driven. Yeah, I have one in here. It's, HVAC works great, draws very little power. It's just, yeah, you're right. The RV market hasn't done it yet. It is stupid. They use single phase shitty compressors. Yeah, needs room for improvement. Crafty, go into business. Wavy asks, will Tesla's Korean CCS adapter be usable in the US? Yeah, it should be. Until we see it, we won't know. How many cells do you think the Plaid will have? I would guess, oh, you mean in series? Probably, no, it's probably going to be more than 108, right? It'll probably be, might be 112, 116, I don't know. That's a good question. Mike's Electric Stuff. I tried this on my Kona, no greenfly happened. I think it needs to see GP carrier as well. Yeah, when you switch the Pilot to low duty cycle, it's asking for digital communication there. Then you need to start sending the PLC carrier over the Pilot line, otherwise it'll time out. So yeah, you can't, if you have a PLC modem connected to it, you should get a carrier link if it starts talking. So, but yeah, even with that, if you're not talking the protocol, it will time out. Mustafa asks, why don't you join Monroe Live and join them in tearing down the Plaid, split the cost to make it possible for both of you? Well, I'd love that. I'd have to fly to Detroit. I was born in Detroit. I don't really like living in Michigan. The winters are too much for me. I'd be happy to fly out there though. Yeah, if we can't buy a kitty with the donation, or in the kitty, if there's not enough money for us to buy a Plaid, yeah, maybe it'll finance a plane ticket. If Sandy will let me have access to the car, I'm happy to do spend a week there and do some teardowns. That would be cool. It's a good idea. I'll try and contact him, see if he's game. Paul asks, 12-volt battery in Plaid might have 4680 cells. Yeah, I'm interested to see how this 12-volt battery system works in the Plaid. I'm completely baffled. It only has 2 high current connections that run to an external 12-volt BMS. I don't see how they're heating it. My guess is there's got to be something inside. I don't know. Maybe they've got some crazy chemistry that can work below freezing. Jake asks, what are you doing to the Model Y? I assume the one behind there. I'm doing some secret consulting for a company in Europe can't really talk more about it right now, but I will do a video on it when I'm allowed to talk about it. Jeremy asks, so for your startup, are you buying new Model 3s? If the customer wants a new powertrain, yeah, we buy a new one. If they're okay with used, and you know, it's for me, the used powertrain, as long as it wasn't damaged in the crash, you know, no physical damage, it's kind of proven past its infant mortality. Like an inverter or some other electronic device, generally, if it makes it, you know, a few days, then you know all the defects have been proven out of it. So a brand new one may have, you know, infant mortality. So it's actually better to get a used one, I think. But yeah, we generally do, the price on the website is for mid-range, or whatever the short range is, whatever Tesla calls it, standard range. Yeah, so if you want new, it obviously does increase the cost. Bryce asks, can a 400 volt architecture be as efficient as an 800 or 900 volt architecture? Tesla, if you look at the efficiency of the Model 3 powertrain, it is so efficient. It's, you know, yeah, you might eke out a few, you know, tenths of a percent if you were lucky and you switched to 800. I don't know. It's a trade-off. But yeah, I think a 400 volt architecture can be efficient enough to not warrant the extra cost of 800. Kiki asks, is 800 volts useful for anything but charging speed? Well, you know, 800 volts reduces the I2R losses, so the higher voltage means a given wire, like let's compare 400 to 800 volts, you know, 10 amps at 400 volts is half as much as it is at 800 volts, so in watts. So obviously that means half your power semiconductors, half your wire size for the same power. The only thing it obviously complicates is the BMS. You have, you know, twice the series strings. With more series strings, maybe, you know, that obviously reduces the parallel cells. So in theory, the pack might not be as reliable. Jeremy says 400 volts versus 800 volts is mainly about charging. I don't know. I think the charging is still limited by the chemistry right now. Like Tesla's existing chemistry, like if you charge at 250, yeah, you might, if you had a 300 kW charger, you might be able to get a little more initially, but you can see it tapers pretty fast. I think that's the chemistry. So, user 16384, what's your prediction? Will there continue to be two separate plug types in North America? Or will they converge somehow? That's a good question. Tesla has a lot invested in their proprietary inlet and plug. They'd have to change, well, they'd have to do what they're doing in Europe, basically, when they switched from their take on the proprietary, you know, mini keys. Now they're switching to CCS, so they had to actually go to all the superchargers and retrofit, so they had two whips. So, you know, just like a lot of the non-Tesla chargers out there have CCS and Chademo, it complicates the things when you have to have two whips. I think it would take a lot for them to do it. I don't see them doing it at this point. I think if they were doing it, they would have done it. Obviously, they're looking forward to PLC, so they're going to make an adapter, I think. So their cars will then work with a simple mechanical adapter on CCS. Pedro Demio says, don't higher voltage semiconductors have higher RDS on? Yeah, in general, that's true. But the silicon carbide and some of the newer technologies beyond that, they're getting it really good. So, you know, I don't think it's going to matter as much. But again, your wiring loss in the motor, all that stuff is a little bit better at higher voltage. Jeremy says 920 volts is nice from charging side, 150 kW, only 200 cable. Yep, that's true, but it's a lot of volts, so your insulation gets really, really heavy. You have to make sure your creepage distances go up, all that stuff. It's a much harder thing to implement safely. 920 volts would definitely be. Crafty asks, wish we could finally go to 48 volt or higher vehicle low voltage electric system. When I was a kid, I remember my dad, who's an automotive engineer, took me to one of the SAE shows, and they were touting 42 volts is the future, and it just never took. They've been trying to do it for years. You know, I'm not a young guy, and that was when I was a kid. So, yeah. The problem is the inertia, the supplier inertia is so high to switch to, 48 volts. You can't get 48 volt components, so it's going to force them to have a converter for the 12 volt stuff. So even if you had a 48, like the mild hybrids are a perfect example. They have a 48 volt mild hybrid, but there's still a 12 volt converter in there. Yeah, it's I don't see it happening. Matthias asks, do you need double size insulation on 800 volt? Yep, you do. Sometimes it's actually higher than double. Maurice asks, are all Tesla chargers in Europe have a CCS connector? Yep, but that wasn't always the case. Tesla had to go convert them. And yeah, I don't know what the ratio of like how many installed stalls they have in the US versus Europe. It's a lot though now. Jake says 48 volt light bulbs are much more delicate. Yeah, that would have been true before we had LEDs. Mr. Gonzonator, why do you think Tesla went with carbon fiber rotors rather than a second gear? Well, they probably have a deep scarred memory of what happened when they tried to add a second gear from the Roadster program. I think that they managed to make it work with the carbon fiber rotors. That probably isn't a huge cost. It's probably a lot cheaper than gears, and gears have a pretty good frictional loss. Like when you do an EV conversion and you leave the old hypoid rear end, those things can suck down like 5 kilowatts under load in heat. Gears are not very efficient. So the less gears you have, the better. And obviously avoiding things like hypoid, which are designed to be quiet and not as efficient. Mike's Electric stuff. If anyone can do 40 volts Teslas, they're much more vertically integrated than legacy companies. Yep, they could do it. Yeah, they're over time they're taking more and more devices into their vertical integration. Can any CCS cars charge a Tesla charger? Kiki asks. In Europe, there would be no reason they couldn't. I've heard rumors that someone was able to charge a Volkswagen for a while. So obviously, yeah, it's the CCS standard. So it's just up to the authorization. Big Boy TV, how to afford a Tesla on low income? Well, buy an older used S. If you can avoid 2012 and 2013, like late 2014 or 2015 is when the Model S got really good as far as reliability. The motor problems started to go away. Those are getting pretty affordable. When you think about the operation cost of your car, like all the gas and stuff you're going to do over its lifetime, Teslas aren't as expensive as you might think. So just start saving if you can, and then the reward will be very low maintenance and low operation cost. No oil changes, brake pads. I mean, really, it's just tires and electricity. Jeremy loves Linux. Some of the latest chargers are pretty efficient, 94, 95%, even with the wide output. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, power electronics are. I'm looking over at that power wall. They're getting pretty good. A lot of advanced technology. Semiconductors are getting good. Yeah, I mean, once you get over 95% efficient, it's pretty good. It's hard to ask for more. Oscar asked, do you think Tesla's making money on the superchargers? No. No, they're not making money on it. I think they're trying to break even on the electricity, so at least once they absorb the sunk cost of the supercharger, they don't keep hemorrhaging on the power. So that's obviously why they stopped the unlimited supercharging. Is it sustainable? Yeah, once they build the infrastructure, it doesn't cost as much to maintain. It's incredibly expensive. Like, I don't know if you guys know, but like when a municipality puts in a simple, like they change a four-way stop into a traffic light, that's upwards of $500,000 to $1 million. It's ridiculous how much it costs to build infrastructure in this day and age. It's stupid. So once you have the infrastructure built, even if you later decide to upgrade the cabinets or change the whips, whatever, that's a much lower cost than building the whole thing, trenching, building permits, contractors, all that crap. It's hard. Marie says, unfortunately, Tesla uses software that only allows Tesla to charge. Yeah, that's the case now, but Tesla could change that on an instant if they wanted to. Yeah, Kiki points out the insurance is too high on Model S for low income. That's true, and this is all Tesla's fault by making it hard to repair the cars in the aftermarket. The insurance companies are totaling cars because you can't get parts. The insurance company is not going to pay for you to have a rental car for 3 months while Tesla, screws around to get a fender. So they total the car, and that drives up the insurance rates. It's stupid. Yeah, Tesla needs to fix that. If anyone at Tesla is listening, fix that. Fix service and parts. Service and parts is so poor, and stop blacklisting, supercharging. At least allow a high voltage inspection, because making the cars less valuable after they're salvaged, decreases their value, and thus, means the insurance companies eat more money when they total the cars. So it would be a win-win if Tesla makes the cars more valuable. And Mike points out that, yeah, 95% efficiency on 200 kW is still 10 kW heat. Yep, that's a lot of heat. Yep. Yeah, it'd be nice if we could get that extra 5, but it's tricky. Yeah, it's a shame I guess in the winter you could, heat the building that the superchargers are in or something. Demand charges on those have to be insane. Almost no DC fast chargers are able to make a profit. That's true. A lot of these charging companies, and I'm sure Tesla, they negotiate with the utilities to get the demand charges reduced. In some places, a lot of places in California, you'll see next to the supercharger cabinets, Tesla's installed battery cabinets to flatten the load, and they can also load shift that way, so they can do a little bit of from peak to off peak. Cole asks, when do you expect inductive charging to be efficient or safe enough for widespread? It won't. Inductive can't ever be efficient enough. You'll see it as niche or in certain situations where you need automatic charging, you might see it, but I don't think inductive charging is ever going to take off. It's pretty easy to plug a car in when you own an EV. Do you think manufacturers use more aggressive charge curves, such as Taycan, will have problems in the future? Did they homework? Well, let's hope they did. Yeah, I mean, pack wear by getting too much heat in there. There's some also chemical wear. I'm not a battery chemistry expert, but yeah, anyone who knows anything about lithium-ion batteries, if you do too much fast charging, it does increase degradation, no matter what your chemistry. Maybe in the future that will be fixed, but yeah, right now you have to taper, you have to track the temperature, you have to keep it, from degrading. Zephod asks, any word about Tesla's new wiring design, buses in lieu of harnesses? I heard they were trying to do flex, so like basically printed wiring harnesses. So, you know, if you know about Kapton polyamide flex, that orange flexible stuff that they use for usually connectors. I'm not in the lab, or I'd show you. Actually, it's a little cold in here. I'm going to turn down the heat pump. Oh, thanks, Tony, for the 50. You should open a shop in San Diego. Maxwell, our shop is in Inglewood, and we also have a authorized repair facility in San Diego. But I personally, I'm not in the shop business. I don't, you know, I do consulting, but yeah, there's not enough business, and you know, you couldn't pay me enough to do working on cars, turning wrenches every day. not something I enjoy. Tesla Fudge says our Model 3 insurance is now 20% less than it was for 2017 GTI. That's pretty cool. You know, what insurance company you're with? You know, spread the love there. Yeah, Mike's Electric Stuff. Yeah, he agrees. Too expensive, maybe niches like cab ranks, etc. Yeah, anywhere. Like I know they were doing it in China where they have a bus stop, you know, to load and unload the bus. So the bus pulls in, they're loading, unloading people, and then they leave. Inductive is one way to, you know, handle dealing with like an overhead pantograph type system. Inductive can work. If it's lossy, who cares? It's, you know, it's not as, that's where you might see that kind of stuff. Boyd asked, do you think Tesla throttling older cars' batteries was a sensible move? Well, yeah, Tesla engineering they're no dummies. They typically do stuff if they see a problem, and they have all the data. So I've definitely seen some pretty high degradation. You know, I have about 3,000 cars connected that are, you know, unsupported. So I have the data on those. Yeah, the older cars are experiencing higher degradation. So throttling, I'm sure, was a move to, you know, extend that. They wouldn't do it just. I don't think they'd do it to penalize the you know, the older cars' owners. Jeremy, yeah. Sometimes I'm amazed we have any DC FC infrastructure. You know, obviously Tesla did it because they knew that was a huge impediment to buying an EV. You couldn't travel with it. So Tesla, you know, bit the bullet and put in a huge amount of infrastructure, and they were selling, you know, expensive Model S's. So you can figure that, you know, a large chunk of, like, at least probably $5,000 or $10,000 of that car probably went for supercharging infrastructure. And then we have Electrify America, which was basically Volkswagen, who was ordered to do it to atone for Dieselgate. Erie Insurance, yeah. Yeah, anytime you see insurance like Geico or Progressive, those guys spend so much money advertising that, you know, if you take out a policy with them, you're going to be paying for that advertising with your normal premium. So if you can find, you know, these small companies, I was with the Hartford for a while, but right now I'm on Tesla insurance. They beat the Hartford, but the Hartford was lower than anyone else. Ralph says Tesla cars seem about 33% more efficient than other EVs. Where is that advantage coming from? I don't know if it's 30. Maybe, you know, if you take a lot of it into account. I don't know what that. I don't know where you got that number, but maybe it's that high. I don't think it is. But yeah, the PMSRM and the SICFET inverter, the battery chemistry has low Coulombic loss. All those things together add up to, you know, efficiency in the powertrain. Then you take into account Tesla has done a great job with aerodynamics. They put in aero shields. They really care and spend a lot of time on the bottoms, you know, the stuff you don't see, getting the the efficiency, the entire systemic efficiency high. And the other automakers don't pay as much attention to that. Wow, I can't believe we've been in the live stream this long. I think I'm going to have to wind it up pretty quick. I've got some things to do today. So yeah, if you guys do, think we have a chance, we do have a chance at least maybe getting a salvage Plaid. Do the GoFundMe, or I guess you can donate here. I don't know how much. They probably take about the same amount, YouTube versus here. I appreciate all the donations. They will be used to make videos. Luckily, Maxwell is going to take care of my income, and I'm still doing consulting, so I'm not doing this as a money grab. I really enjoy teardowns. I'd love to buy as much as I can to tear it apart. So if you guys support me, also let me know what you want to see. It's hard to gauge what I want to see, and also how much detail do you want? Do you want really intricate details, or which really isn't useful to anyone other than an electrical engineer, or do you want to see just an overview? I could also start making 2 videos, like the overview and then the deep dive. I think that's a good idea. I might do that on the power wall over there. It's got a lot of complexity. Rush asked 3,000 cars unsupported. Yeah, so in 2015, I basically built an alternate back end that mimics Tesla's back end. So customers that use my service, I could move their cars off Tesla and onto my system. And yeah, I have about 3,000 cars on that system. So Tesla isn't connected to those cars anymore. And it's not my software. We leave the software in the cars alone, and we basically freeze the software to a workable version. But it's mostly Model S's and mostly older cars. I pretty much don't do that anymore. Tesla's made it really difficult to get into the cars just to do work on them. We really need right to repair for automotive. Tesla needs to be legally compelled to let us into the cars so we can repair them. Mr. Gonzanator says I should do Rich Rebuilds collabs. I helped Rich. I did all his remote work on his Tesla stuff, but what he's doing now, there's really nothing I could collaborate with. And he's on the other side of the country, also hard to do. Yeah, Mike's electric stuff. With 0 to 60 in 2 seconds, won't be long before Plaid comes up for salvage. Yeah, but it's going to take a while before, like, the Ukrainians and all the exporters, they're going to snap them up for, like, some of these cars are going for higher than new value because a salvage car can be legally exported, unlike a new car. In other words, it's classified as parts if it's a salvage car, so that gets them through the import regulations. So they're willing to pay more for a salvage car than a new car in some cases. So I've got to wait till the demand dies down. I can't afford to pay that much for a salvage. It'll take a while. Edwin says nice solar inverter in the background. Yeah, I think I showed that earlier on. You must have come in late. My SMA inverter. I think they make the best inverters. Yeah, I've got a 9 kilowatt system on the roof. Yeah, Oscar. So yeah, maybe what I'll do is I'll just start making 2 videos for teardowns. I'll do the overview and talk about to the average person why this technology is cool, and then I'll do deep down for the engineers and techies. Yeah, David, I want to do a heat pump teardown, but like I've got a car behind me that's got it, but I can't wreck it. A destructive teardown is different. Even discharging it, I don't have the ability to discharge and then recharge a Y123F refrigerant system, so I can't even take it apart. Ben asked, how's the Sprinter conversion going? We abandoned the Sprinter. It's not, the platform's not amenable to conversions as easy as the ProMaster. Thanks, Jeremy. I appreciate the $5. Yeah, Ben, check out maxwellvehicles.com here. If you want to see what we're doing. If I can spell it right. That's what the Sprinter conversion became. All right. If you have any more questions, especially if you donated money, I'm more than happy to give you attention. You can either email me. My contact info is on my YouTube about page. Email is probably the best way to get a hold of me. You can also just write a comment in the video, below the video, any of the recent videos. I try to read them if they're reasonable. Give me ideas for teardowns, especially teardowns that can be done on a budget, at least until I have the money to buy something like a Plaid. Mike's like, salvage goes for more than new. Buy car, crash car, profit. Yeah, because we're putting used Tesla powertrains in vans. We always joke, about yeah. I won't repeat the joke. It's not family friendly. John asked, what do you find is the most common fix work is needed on aging Teslas? Depends on the model and the year, but in general, Teslas are pretty reliable. It's generally it's like not the powertrain stuff that breaks. It's generally, lots of little things like door latches and front latches and seat motors, things like that are the most common. All right. I'll go ahead and put the GoFundMe up here. If all we would need is a third of my channel subscribers to donate $20 here, or 4,000 people to donate 40 or so, if my math is right, and we could buy a Plaid and I could do a complete teardown. But yeah, maybe we collaborate with Monroe. If anyone knows him, ask him if he's amenable. Yeah, we are working on a box. I released a video about it a little while ago, a controller that will enable you to run the Tesla drivetrain components for conversions. Thanks, Arnold, for the $10. So obviously Maxwell is a priority, but it is being worked on. So ultimately, I do want to see Tesla components go into classic cars and hot rods and all kinds of stuff. It's such a great powertrain. And yeah, I've already figured out how to do this, so I want to share that with all the gearheads out there that want that to happen. I went and saw Matt, Superfast Matt. He's doing the Tesla powertrain and a Tesla Model 3 powertrain in a classic Jag. Pretty awesome, a lot of work. Shifthead says you'll get it. Keep making videos, driving Maxwell in here. You'll get more subscribers and won't need a load. Yeah, yeah. If you're curious about the van, I could do a video on the van. Right now, growth is our problem. Like we've got more orders than we can fill. So I actually don't want more orders from Maxwell right now. We need to build our manufacturing capability and stuff like that. But Shifthead, I want to make a road course tube chassis with Model 3 powertrain. Yep. Well, even Model 3 drive unit and a lighter pack, like a Chevy Volt pack or something, tube chassis. That would be hot. Yeah, user 16384 is telling us about Ukraine. That's it's interesting. Yeah, I didn't think about the oil aspect of it, but yeah, there's a huge demand in the Ukraine for Teslas. So when you watch the auctions, a lot of them are sold and get into containers and go over there. Elliot asks, what's the best source to go for doing your own Tesla conversion? I don't know. It's complicated. Integration is really hard. Getting Tesla components to work out of a Tesla without all the other components is hard. Getting them to work, if like in the case of us, you know, we had to integrate. We built a box called a cancellator, and it speaks Tesla on one side and CAN bus, Tesla on one side and Ram ProMaster on the other. And incidentally, for all you guys in Europe, like Mike, the ProMaster is the Ducato van. That's what they call it here. So yeah, it speaks ProMaster on one side and Tesla on the other, and makes it work harmoniously. Super hard to do. That takes a lot of work because the manufacturers don't give out the how-to. Okay, I think I gotta wrap it up. I'm getting hungry, haven't eaten, so this has been an hour and a half. I'll do more of these if you guys are interested. Let me know. If give me a thumbs up on this video if you want me to do more of these, and yeah, give me some ideas. Give me ideas for videos. Give me ideas for teardowns. I'm glad the live stream worked. I hope the audio wasn't so bad. Maybe I'll work on the tech. It's not, I haven't done it before, but it looks like we pulled it off. Thank you guys for tuning in and supporting me. I really appreciate it. And yeah, feel free to keep the questions flowing. Email me. All right, I guess. Bye-bye.